this video, it's MacBook Pro versus the new iPad 3. First, let's talk about the displays. On the 13-inch MacBook Pro, you have a 13.3-inch display with a resolution of 1280 by 800. On the new iPad, or as I call it, the iPad 3, you have a 10-inch panel with a resolution of 2048 by 1536. And everything looks great on the new iPad. The text looks extremely sharp, pictures look very good, videos look fantastic. It's basically like a glowing sheet of paper when you're reading text. So the iPad 3 screen is pretty much a 10 out of 10. Now I've just zoomed into the MacBook Pro screen and it does look pretty nice. The colors pop pretty well. Not as much as the iPad, and text just does not look as good. It looks very sort of grainy, not high resolution at all. So I'll go ahead and try to replicate this for you. Up in the menu bar, you won't be able to see it, but the battery icon and like the Wi-Fi indicator and stuff, they all look a little bit pixely, especially in comparison to the new iPad screen. Basically, because the resolution is only 1280 by 800, the picture looks nowhere near as good, and text looks nowhere near as crisp as the new iPad's 2048 by 1536 panel. Now let's talk about specs. The MacBook Pro has a 2.3 GHz Intel Core i5 processor, 4 GB of 1333 MHz DDR3 RAM standard, expandable to 8 gigs by the way, so it goes up to 8 GB, and it also has a 320 GB hard drive. And it has Intel integrated graphics, pretty crappy graphics, especially in comparison to discrete graphic cards. Talking about the specs of the new iPad, it has a 1 GHz dual-core A5X chip with quad-core graphics. And it also ranges in memory from 16 to 64 GB. This particular model is the 64 GB model, which will set you back about $700, and the MacBook Pro will set you back about $1,400. So quite a big price difference there, but also 64 gigs of storage, 320 gigs of storage. But the iPad 3 does start off at $540. So it is a lot cheaper than the MacBook Pro. Now let's talk about ports and expandability. The new iPad has a headphone jack and a 30-pin dock connector. That is all the expandability. A headphone port and a 30-pin dock connector. That's it. No SD card slot, no USB port, and certainly no DVD drive. The MacBook Pro has a lot more ports than the iPad, as you can see here. Going along the left-hand side of the unit, we have a MagSafe power connector, that's for charging the notebook itself. Gigabit Ethernet, FireWire 800, Thunderbolt, 2 USB 2.0 ports, an SD card slot, and a headphone and microphone jack. It's all combined into the one port, which I don't like, to be honest. And a battery indicator. So when your notebook is off or shut, you can see how much battery life you have left, indicated by the green LEDs. On the front of the MacBook Pro, you have the infrared receiver for using the Apple remote with front row on the Mac to access media, playback media and so forth. On the right hand side of the unit, you have a slot loading DVD drive, not a Blu-ray drive, only DVDs here, and a Kensington lock for securing the notebook to a desk if you're at university, for example, and you don't want your laptop to get stolen. And as for expandability on the MacBook Pro, you can unscrew this bottom panel and you can replace the hard drive. You can even put 2 hard drives in if you take out the DVD drive, and you can add another hard drive in. And you can also change the RAM up to 8 GB. So the MacBook Pro is a lot more expandable and has a lot more ports than the iPad. Talking about cameras, the new iPad does indeed have a front-facing VGA camera. This camera is absolutely terrible quality. It sucks, and Apple should have put in at least a 2 megapixel camera, but they didn't because they'll leave it till next year. So then you'll go, oh, a new camera, I have to buy this new thing. On the back of the new iPad, we indeed have a 5 megapixel 1080p camera. The camera itself is actually pretty good, but not as good as the iPhone 4S, but very good for a tablet. 5 megapixels, really nice photos, pretty good video. On the 13-inch MacBook Pro, you have a front-facing HD FaceTime camera. And as you can see, when the camera is turned on, the green LED light shines, so you know that the camera is indeed active. The quality of the front-facing FaceTime camera is much better than the quality of the front-facing iPad camera. However, it does not compare to the back iPad camera. But if you're going to be taking a lot of web video calls, the MacBook Pro may be a better solution than the iPad, as the front-facing camera is quite a bit nicer as it's HD. Talking about input methods, on 13-inch MacBook Pro, you have Apple's famous chiclet-style keyboard, which is extremely comfortable to type on, and it is also backlit, so when you're typing at night, as you can see here, the keyboard will actually automatically light up, so you can see what you're typing in the dark. Now this keyboard is absolutely fantastic. I can type on it for ages super fast, and I've never used a better keyboard in a competing laptop. And it's the same keyboard as the Bluetooth keyboard right here, the same sort of setup, the Apple Bluetooth keyboard, which I use with my Mac Pro. So it's really fantastic, and yeah, I can just type so fast on this keyboard and absolutely love it. Of course, you also have a second input method on your laptop, which is the trackpad. As you can see, the trackpad is absolutely huge, and you have all sorts of multi-touch gestures you can do with it. The trackpad on the MacBooks is just so much better than anything I've ever used on any PC laptop. So the input methods for the MacBook Pro are very nice, but of course it doesn't have a touchscreen. But that would be pretty ridiculous in a laptop to have a touchscreen. So if you're, as I said, writing a lot, the MacBook Pro probably will be the choice for you, as the keyboard is really great and the trackpad is also very great. Talking about input methods on the new iPad, the iPad 3rd generation, you have an on-screen touch keyboard. I can type pretty fast on this, but obviously not as fast as a physical keyboard. Along with the touch keyboard, you also have on the new iPad voice dictation. So you can dictate sentences with that as well. Let's go ahead and give that a try. I am funny! Exclamation mark. So as you can see, the voice dictation thought I said, if that will focus, it said I am funny estimate. So voice dictation is very unreliable in my use, and I certainly wouldn't bank on that if you're doing a lot of typing. However, if you do write a lot, you can actually pick up a Bluetooth keyboard from Apple. I think they're $70, so not the cheapest thing in the world. But this keyboard will give you the exact same typing experience as you would get on the MacBook Pro, as it's literally the same keyboard, just in an external form factor. And this works great. You just pair it over Bluetooth to the iPad, and you can type in Pages, any application, and yeah, this is a fantastic keyboard. So you can definitely buy one of these and stand it up in a folio case or the smart cover and type away. So the iPad is okay for writing on its own, but if you're doing a lot of typing, I'll definitely recommend getting an external keyboard. Now, talking about smoothness and performance, the iPad I find just to be so buttery smooth when using it. Whether you're zooming in and out of something, whether you're going back to the home screen, whether you're swiping between pages. And I find the iPad very rarely slows down on me. It just seems like a very snappy device, even though the specs are not as good as the MacBook Pro, of course. So for smoothness and performance, I'd actually say the iPad feels smoother than the MacBook Pro. Talking about size and weight, as you can see, the iPad does comfortably fit on the MacBook Pro, but it's not really heaps smaller than the MacBook Pro in terms of the shape of it. However, in thinness, you can see the iPad is a lot thinner than the MacBook Pro. Talking about weight of the MacBook Pro, the MacBook Pro weighs 2.54 kilos, and when you pick it up, it does feel quite heavy. Also, when you've got it in a backpack, for example, you can certainly feel that you're holding a computer in there. However, the iPad weighs 652 grams, and when you're holding it, it doesn't feel particularly heavy, and when you've got it in a bag, you can barely notice it, especially if you've got other stuff in there. 652 grams isn't going to add much to the weight. So if you're all about having lightweight items and you don't want to be carrying this big heavy thing around, I'll definitely say go for the new iPad. So in summary, what is my opinion? Which one do I think you should get? Well, if you already have a desktop, for example, I have a Mac Pro 8-core beast tower computer, then I definitely recommend going for the iPad. The iPad is all you need if you already have a desktop computer and don't need to be doing crazy stuff on the go. The iPad is going to be the far better choice than the MacBook Pro. If you already have a powerful desktop at home and you don't go on very long trips, I would say the iPad is the much better way to go. However, if you do not have a desktop computer at home and you just want a laptop as your only machine no desktop, I'll definitely say go for the 13-inch MacBook Pro. It's pretty fast, obviously not as fast as an iMac or something, but if you want an all-in-one package for portability and on the go, and you want power, I'll definitely recommend the 13-inch MacBook Pro, as it has the storage space, the speed, the bigger display, and of course all the ports for connecting to hard drives and external monitors, and basically it's just a full computer. So if you don't have a computer, go for the 13-inch MacBook Pro. If you already have a powerful computer at home and don't need to do crazy demanding stuff when you're on the go, I would seriously recommend going for the new iPad. And for me, as I said, I do have a Mac Pro, and the new iPad is all I need. This is so good for me when I'm on the go, and when I'm at home I just use my desktop and I use my iPad as well, because the iPad is such a great device, and there's more and more productivity apps coming up every week for this thing, it seems. Like, I've got iWork on here, I've got iMovie. A few of my YouTube videos I've actually edited on the iPad itself. You actually can do some productivity on the iPad. So I've actually sold this MacBook Pro, and I'll be posting it very soon. And I'm really enjoying the new iPad. So anyway guys, that's just about it for the video. Please go ahead and give me a thumbs up, as I really appreciate it. Drop a comment down below, which one do you prefer, the new iPad or the 13-inch MacBook Pro? Go ahead and click that subscribe button right above this video. And I'll put links in the video description. I have a full review on the iPad 3 or new iPad, and I have a full review on the 13-inch MacBook Pro. So those links will be right down below in the video description. And check them out, because I'll go more in depth about each product, obviously. This was just a comparison video. And of course, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/itechEverything. And I'll see you guys in the next video.